One clung to the massive, pulsating thorax of the giant queen, her enormous wings beating furiously against the storm winds as we soared miles above the jagged peaks of the Forbidden Mountains. My hands, slick with her royal jelly and my own blood, refused to let go, not because I wanted to hold on, but because she wouldn't release me. Her antennae twitched with what I could only interpret as fierce protectiveness, her compound eyes reflecting the terror in my own. They warned me. I whispered into the howling gale, my voice lost in the thunder. But how could I have known that touching her would bind our fates forever? As the ground rushed up to meet us, I realized this wasn't just survival, it was the beginning of an unbreakable bond that would change everything I thought I knew about loneliness, courage, and the wild heart of the world. In the shadow of the ancient whispering woods, where the trees seemed to murmur secrets to those who dared listen, I grew up as the village outcast. My name was Elara, a scrappy orphan with wild auburn hair and a curiosity that burned brighter than the harvest bonfires. The elders called it a curse. I called it my only friend. Our village, nestled at the foot of the Forbidden Mountains, lived by one unbreakable rule: never venture into the Hive Caverns. The giant queen rules there, they'd say round the flickering hearths, their voices dropping to hushed tones. She's as old as the mountains themselves, a colossal guardian of the earth's hidden pulse. Touch her, and she'll claim you forever, body and soul. I remember the first time I heard the full legend. It was during the Festival of Echoes, when the moon hung low and fat like a ripe fruit. Old Mora, the village storyteller with her wrinkled skin etched like bark, gathered us children round her. Long ago, she began, her eyes gleaming in the firelight. A brave warrior named Thorn sought the queen's power to save his dying love. He ignored the warnings, scaled the caverns, and laid a hand upon her shimmering exoskeleton. But the queen, wise and eternal, saw into his heart not greed, but desperation. She bound him to her, making him her eternal sentinel. He never returned, but sometimes, on stormy nights, you can hear his echoes in the wind, warning others away. The other kids shivered and promised obedience, but not me. I was 12 then, and the story ignited something deep within, a spark of defiance mixed with aching loneliness. My parents had perished in a rock slide years before, leaving me to the mercy of indifferent aunts and uncles who saw me as just another mouth to feed. I spent my days wandering the woods edges, collecting oddities, iridescent beetle shells, glowing fungi, and stones that hummed when held just right. The Hive Caverns called to me like a siren's song, their entrance a yawning maw hidden behind a veil of vines, guarded only by the villagers' fear. As I grew older, the warnings grew more insistent. By 16, I was apprenticed to the village healer, Mistress Lyra, a stern woman with a soft spot for my restless spirit. Elara, child, she'd sigh as I daydreamed over herb poultices. Curiosity is a gift, but unchecked, it's a blade that cuts its wielder. The queen isn't a myth, she's real, and her touch is a chain. But her words fell on deaf ears. I felt invisible, trapped in a life of mundane routines, while the world beyond pulsed with mystery. What harm could come from just looking? I'd tell myself during sleepless nights, staring at the mountain's silhouette. One crisp autumn dawn, when the leaves painted the ground in fiery hues, I made my choice. The village was abuzz with preparations for the winter stores, and no one noticed as I slipped away with a satchel of bread, a lantern, and a small dagger for protection. I lied to myself. The path to the caverns was overgrown, thorns snagging at my cloak like warning fingers. Hours passed, the air growing thick with the scent of damp earth and something sweeter, almost floral. As I pushed through the vines, the entrance loomed before me, a vast archway carved by time, echoing with distant hums that vibrated in my chest. Inside, the caverns unfolded like a labyrinth of wonders. Bioluminescent veins threaded the walls, casting an ethereal blue glow. Strange insects skittered about workers. I realized, tending to hexagonal chambers filled with golden nectar. My heart pounded with exhilaration and fear. Deeper I went, following the hum that grew louder, more insistent, like a heartbeat calling me home. Whispers echoed in my mind. Turn back. Danger. But I pressed on, driven by an emptiness I couldn't name. At last, I reached the heart of the hive, a colossal chamber, where the air shimmered with warmth. There she was, the giant queen. She was magnificent, her body the size of a small house, armored in iridescent chitin that shifted colors like oil on water. Her wings, folded delicately, spanned wider than the village square. Antennae as long as my arms swayed gently, and her mandibles clicked softly, almost rhythmically. Around her, drones buzzed in attendance, but she paid them no mind. She seemed lonely, perched on a throne of wax and resin, her abdomen pulsing with life. They warned me not to touch her, but in that moment, seeing her isolation mirror my own, I couldn't resist. My hand trembled as I reached out, fingers brushing her exoskeleton. It was warm, vibrating with an ancient energy. A jolt surged through me, visions of vast skies, endless flights, and a profound sorrow that wasn't mine. Then, her antennae wrapped around my wrist like gentle vines, holding firm. She wouldn't let go. Panic set in as I tried to pull away, but her grip was unyielding yet painless. The drones swarmed, their hums turning frantic. I stumbled back, but she moved with me, her massive form shifting with surprising grace. What have I done? I gasped, tears stinging my eyes. The cavern walls seemed to close in, and I realized the warnings weren't just tales, they were truths. Bound now, I had to face the consequences of my curiosity. Alone in the depths with a queen who saw something in me worth claiming, trapped in the queen's grasp. The initial terror gave way to a strange calm as hours blurred into what felt like days. Her antennae held my arm not in aggression, but in communion, a silent link that flooded my mind with fragments of her world. I saw through her eyes, eons of guarding the earth's secrets, birthing legions to maintain balance, yet enduring an isolation that echoed my own orphan soul. She wasn't a monster. She was a sentinel, weary from centuries of solitude. "Why me?" I whispered, sinking to the cavern floor as exhaustion claimed me. In response, a warmth spread through the bond, images of my own life flashing back. My parents' laughter before the rock slide, my aunt's cold dismissals, my endless wanderings. She understood loneliness. She chose me to end hers. But survival demanded action. The queen's hold meant I couldn't leave, yet staying meant starvation. Challenges mounted like stacking stones. First, the drones initially hostile, buzzing threats at my intrusion began to bring offerings. Droplets of royal jelly on leaves, sweet and nourishing. Through the bond, I sensed the queen's command. Protect her, feed her. It was her way of caring, but it isolated me further from the human world. Days passed in this limbo, my mind weaving between despair and wonder. I learned her name not in words, but in vibrations. Thalira, the Eternal Mother. The first major trial came when intruders breached the cavern's poachers from a rival village, drawn by rumors of the hive's treasures. Their torches flickered like angry stars as they advanced, axes glinting. The queen's nectar will fetch a fortune. One snarled. Panic surged through me, but so did Thalira's resolve. Her antennae tightened, and suddenly I felt her power course through me, a surge of strength and instinct. I grabbed my dagger, but it was more. The drones rallied at her silent call, swarming the invaders. I directed them somehow, the bond making me an extension of her will. We repelled them, but not without cost. A poacher's blade grazed my side, blood mixing with jelly. As I collapsed, Thalira's mandibles gently tended the wound, her secretions healing it faster than any herb. In that pain, I felt our connection deepen, not captor and captive, but allies against the world's greed. Yet, the emotional toll weighed heaviest. Visions haunted my dreams. Thalira's past losses, Queen's layers who had stolen her offspring, leaving her hive diminished. It mirrored my grief, forcing me to confront buried pain. I miss them, I sobbed one night, curled against her side. In response, she shared memories of her own children, drones lost to storms, workers to predators. We grieved together, the bond a bridge over our chasms of sorrow. Relatable now, she became more than a giant insect. She was a mother figure I'd never had, teaching me resilience through her unyielding presence. Resolution beckoned during a ferocious storm that rattled the mountains. Floodwaters rushed into the caverns, threatening to drown the hive. The queen's abdomen, heavy with unborn brood, made escape impossible alone. We have to move, I urged, the bond allowing wordless communication. Drawing on our shared strength, I guided her through crumbling tunnels, drones forming living bridges over chasms. My hands, still held by her antennae, directed the exodus. As we emerged into the raging tempest, wings unfurling, she lifted us both into the sky, my hook's perilous flight. Soaring above the peaks, the storm's fury tested our bond. Winds tore at us, but I held on, whispering encouragements born from our merged spirits. We're not alone anymore, I said, and felt her agreement pulse back. We landed in a hidden valley, safe and new, where the hive could rebuild. In that moment, her and